I was lucky enough to interview you recently for a book that I'm writing, Bumble, and we had a young kid who was listening in to the call, and he said, you would ask him a question and Bumble would give you 3 different anecdotes, and very rarely were any of the anecdotes exactly what you asked for, but he said they were all brilliant. And it made me think about your entire career, and I want to come to it eventually about who you have become, right, rather than who you started as. But to begin with, as a cricketer, did you get everything out of your cricket career that you thought you should have?
No, you always got regrets about your own career, and people say you've done this. What's best? Well, there's nothing better than playing. And at times you think, you reflect and look back and think, well, I should have done a bit better than I did. I started on uncovered pitches, which were pretty tough. I started as a left-arm spinner and wasn't very good. Finished up as a batter. Would bat 5-4, opened for quite a long time. But you have a lot of fun and a lot of heartache about it as well when you're a player. But you do quietly, in that quiet moment, reflect, well, I wish I'd have worked a bit harder and got a bit better. Geoffrey Boycott was kingpin at the time, John Edrich, as I was an opener, and I would only get into any test team if they were not available or injured. And then I had to be absolutely on top of my game as well. And if I wasn't, they'd pick somebody else.
Is one reason that you stayed around in cricket afterwards, other than the fact that you didn't go to school much, you told me the other day, because you were so busy practicing for cricket all the time, so you didn't have another trade, but was the other reason that you felt like you still had something to give the game afterwards?
Well, I love cricket, I love the game, it can give me, a wonderful life, and so I think I was lucky and making good decisions. So whilst I was playing, take my coaching badges, I was interested, so we'll take the badges, and we did it all in the UK at Lillishall, at the National Sports Centre as it was at then. So when I finished playing, I'd got qualifications behind me to carry on in the game in some capacity. I tried industry and business, and that within 6 months, this is not me. And so I applied to get onto the umpires list, and I did 2 years as a reserve. So what does that mean, being a reserve umpire? I could do...
Sounds like unemployed.
No, you do second 11.
Oh, okay.
And university, which is lots of university cricket at the time. And so I would learn umpiring with established umpires, Barry Mayer, Dickie Bird, all the others that were around at that time. And so I would be making decisions, but they wouldn't be decisions in county championship. And the other thing at that time, I was not allowed to umpire, or you weren't allowed to umpire the county that you came from. So I couldn't umpire Lancashire matches. And so eventually I got onto the full list. And I did 3.5 years, thoroughly enjoyed it. But the umpire was king. The players looked up to you and didn't challenge you. And then DRS came in, so you could challenge. I was out of that.
How good an umpire do you think you got to? Like, you just said that you didn't get everything out of yourself as a player. What about as an umpire?
Like every other umpire, you make mistakes. And the trick is, don't make too many. And so you were marked by the captain. The captain would give you a mark. And, I did all right, I did fine. And I believe that I was shortlisted to do one-day internationals. But I was brought out by the then Test and County Cricket Board to head up quick cricket, which was an offshoot of, I think, in Australia, Kanga cricket. Yeah. And so it was all into primary schools with plastic cricket bats, try to get young children involved in the game of cricket, because at that stage in primary schools, I don't know whether it's any different, they would be playing rounders. So if you're playing rounders, why not have a go at playing cricket with cricket equipment which wouldn't hurt them? Cricket's a hard ball, so we had a much softer ball, which was good for the children. So I was brought out of umpiring to head that up, and moved on through coaching at the same time. Mickey Stewart was England coach at the time, and I was helping him out from time to time in various guises.
You go from that to leading the team. It feels like the umpiring thing happens and you make a conscious decision. You spend 2 years getting good at it, then you end up at the professional level, doing it at the top level. toward, as you said, towards the international level. Coaching, you start helping out, and then when do you start to take that seriously as a career?
Well, I was asked to take the under-19s on a couple of tours, so it's kicked in then. You know, you're always, I mean, there's not that many coaches, so you're always looking for a bit of employment. I never chased it. I was doing other things and speaking at dinners, going around the country speaking at dinners, which eventually, I have to say and be honest, it did me in. It did my head in. I'd had enough. And I still get people now asking me, can you speak at this dinner? And I just have to politely say, I just cannot do it. I've served my time. Other people would be doing that. So doing the under-19s put me in the frame. I then went back to Lancashire, and I think that's so important. I spent a long time away from Lancashire, a long time, a decade, and a lot more than that. And then you go back and you don't know anybody, and so you're new to the job, and you've got your own ideas. And so it moved on from there. I was Lancashire coach, and then moved into England.
Did you enjoy the England coaching job?
Loved it, absolutely loved it. We were skint as a board. We had no money. There were no central contracts. Players would, you'd turn up on a Tuesday night, have a damn good meal, bit of practice on a Wednesday, and play on the Thursday, and then go back to your counties. And what struck me was that it was in the days of CFAX, and so there'd be a television in the room, and the lads were representing England, and the CFAX was on, and just looking at the county scores. We're just there, and playing for England was like an icing on the cake. I'm a county cricketer and I play for England. And we were pushing in the late 90s for central contracts, to manage the players and to be England players. And David Graveney was chairman of the selectors. Raymond Illingworth was very much involved at that time. But the board had no money. And then the big broadcast deals came in, changed the whole complexion of the funds were then available for all sorts of things. Academies, Lions tours, umpires, coaching, all through the big broadcast deals.
You talked about, speaking at all those dinners, and for players of your era, that was kind of a way to make a living, and going to clubs and places and speaking. When does the media stuff start, though?
Again, you've got to be lucky in life, and as I'd finished playing in the sort of early 80s, Lancashire was still doing fine in one-day competitions, and they got into, it might have been a Benson and Hedges final. It was against Sussex at Lloyd's, and I got a call from Peter Baxter, who was producer on Test Match Special, and I would be the Lancashire voice at this Lloyd's celebratory final versus Sussex. John Barclay, who's become a dear friend, who was captain of Sussex at the time, was the Sussex guy, and he's posh. J.R.T. Barclay, John Richard Troutbeck Barclay. He's posh, and he's
cravat.
No, he didn't have a cravat.
Okay,
he wouldn't have it. He quite the other way. He'd have a nice trilby on, and so you've John from Sussex and this Lancashire lad, and it turned out just by being lucky and doing that, the voice was attractive to radio, is what Peter Baxter told me. And I moved on doing various one-day games for the BBC at that time, and then got invited on to Test Match Special. Now, I still pinch myself that I worked on that programme for a long time.
You would have grown up listening to it.
I've grown up listening to it and working with Brian Johnson, Henry Blofeld, Christopher Martin Jenkins, Bill Frindle, Trevor Bailey, Fred Truman, who's one of my all-time heroes, Fred Truman, Jonathan Agnew as a young lad. We had an absolute ball. It was fabulous. That was a wonderful time to be in a commentary box. And I thought, you'll love this, when I first got invited, I thought it was a script. I thought you had to read a script. You go, give me the microphone, off you go. I thought, what have I got to say? And obviously you just describe what you see.
When do you make the move into then TV?
When satellite television came in, I believe in 1991, and there was Sky Television and BSB, it was called British Satellite Broadcasting, And that got swallowed up by Sky. I was with BSB, and when it got swallowed up, I moved into Sky. I moved across to Sky. And then I had the break and moved into England coaching. And then as I left in 1999, I got a call from the head of cricket at Sky as I'm leaving. He's been said he's leaving, and there's going to be a media that he's leaving. And John Gaylord, who was the head of an Australian guy, red-headed, bearded, raw-boned Australian fella, he rang, "You're leaving, join us." And so I'm a bit down at the time, and I think, well, you know, I need a bit of time. He said, "You've got 10 minutes to tell me." He said, "Ring me back." He said, "Because we're going to jump on the back of this media from the ECB, Test and County Cricket Board, as it probably was it? No, it might have been ECB. He said, "We're going to jump on the back of that and announce that you're working for us," and that's exactly what happened. So he's leaving, cameras rolling, press conference, media questions, finish that, and he's joining us. So then they gave me the microphone with the Sky logo on it and that, and so I've now moved straight into Sky. I'm still a bit down. I wanted to carry on with England. It wasn't going to be. And I said to John, I'd like a bit of time off. He's Australian, red-headed, bearded, raw-boned. You start next week, you're in next week. And so it was whirlwind. And I had a fabulous time at Sky. I had an absolutely fabulous time. But it gave me an opportunity, and you would like to go and work on Channel 9. I mean, that's the holy grail, to be involved in Channel 9. Fantastic.
To do TMS and Channel 9, that's kind of the two most important broadcast pillars that cricket was built on, right?
Yeah, and to work in that Channel 9 box with Tony Greig, Richie Beno, Bill Lorry, Ian Chappell, it was bang on, absolutely bang on. Knowing the business, and outrageous at times. Great fun. I mean, that's important, great fun.
When do you sort of become the face of T20 cricket, early T20 cricket, and become the start the car? I think I've got a T-shirt at home. It actually just says start the car on it.
I can't believe that. I was so embarrassed with that. They produced some T-shirts, some fans, some supporters.
Yeah, it's just a fan group. Someone gave it to me.
Yeah, I've got to tell you, I go to bed in it now. It's my T-shirt, but I go to bed in. I start the car on my face, on the front of it. 2003 that first started. I got it straight away. And, being in England, I go back to Gillette Cup. Oh, this will never catch on. 60 overs, 65 overs, 60 overs. Oh, and then they're bringing 40 over cricket in. This will never catch on. Sunday League cricket. They went from strength to strength. And T20 was off, in my opinion, it was off and running immediately. It captured the imagination of the public. I still think it's the premier one-day competition because it fills. You look at this Blast. I think the Blast is a wonderful, fabulous competition. I've worked at the IPL, and that is sheer entertainment with some great players, and it works unbelievably in India. Fill the ground, 80, 90,000 people. And so it was an instant success, was that.
Did you... I talked to Danny Morrison once, and you would know Danny Morrison a little bit as well. Danny Morrison, when you meet him in real life, is absolutely nothing like the Danny Morrison that you see on TV. He sees it as a role, as a like his mum was in the theatre, and his theatre is commentating on TV in cricket. And you are much more naturally like that. And I wondered if all those years of being an umpire and a player and having to be serious and going on TMS and everything else, finally when T20 comes along, it's almost like cricket becomes a little bit more Bumble, and you're like, well, I can expand who I am and have a freedom to perform the way I like to a little bit more.
I also think you need good producers and good people around you, and from that Sky environment at that time, I'll say at that time, I'll stress that, take it to the edge. Just be yourself, take it to the edge, be outrageous, we will back you. And it just gives you free license.
But if T20 wasn't around, you might not have had that freedom?
No, I'd have enough sense to back off, and I'd still, we're working here at talkSPORT, and I love it to bits, to sort of go full circle from starting in the radio, branching out into TV, to come back to radio. Radio is the nuts and bolts of cricket. It is very much so. Because you're talking all the time. You have to talk all the time. In TV, you've got to let it wash. Just shut up. Just let it go. And we were told constantly by one of the producers who became head of Sky, Barney Francis, less is more. And he'd tell us time and time again, less is more. And working with Warney, Warney was absolute motor mouth. He'd go, buh, 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 buh. And he would understand it. Yeah, less is more, less is more. Somebody tell me to shut up. And so, you know, the enthusiasm comes through. But I like the element of, if you're broadcasting on a cricket match for 7 hours, you've got to lighten it up a bit. You can't be dead serious for 7 hours. You have a bit of fun.
There's difference between lightening up a little bit. So when you started on TMS, you probably weren't expecting to end up singing Elvis songs on TV, right? Like, there's a big difference between you being Bumble and you're on there because you've got the great voice and you know a lot about cricket and you're fun. That's not quite in singing in front of a crowd at finals day, is it? Like,
no, it moves on, and there's always that frustrated karaoke. And Andrew Flintoff was another. We were seriously vying against each other. He's doing Elvis, and I'm doing Neil Diamond,
sorry,
Sweet Caroline.
You're right. I should have remembered it was Freddie in the Elvis suit, wasn't it?
Yeah, and he's dead serious. He said, I'm doing it. I want a proper suit. I want to be dressed up as Elvis. And then he trips up over the speaker. He forgets the words, and he wins the competition. I was most upset because I kicked off with Johnny Cash. I like a bit of Johnny Cash, Folsom Prison, and then went into Sweet Caroline. And you know, you'd think that standing there in front of 25,000, you need a stiff drink before you do that because you're not very good. But the enthusiasm is there. You've got to have a go. But I'll come back to TMS. If it was around at that time, I'll guarantee that Brian Johnson would have had a go. He would have had a sing.
I want to talk about. You would have grown up in an area where some of your friends, would have had pretty much one career all the way through their life, right? I look at my father, who's a similar age to you. He basically did the same job just for different companies overall, and lots of people of that era did that. It's a bit different now. People do all different jobs, but look at your life. You're a professional cricketer. You're an umpire. You're a coach. You're radio. You're TV. You're doing public speaking. You're doing all these different things. It's almost like you are just going from whatever interests you at the time and latching onto it rather than looking for a career.
Well, I came from a very modest background. My mother was one of 13. My dad was one of 5.
Can you name all your aunties and uncles?
No, I did. A lot of them had died before I appeared.
I was even, yeah.
Yeah, so I had a tough upbringing. I've never forgotten where I come from. I come from a town called Accrington, a terraced house and an outside toilet, and we were talking earlier about no double glazing and no central heating, nothing like that. It was tough. There was a song around by the Animals, Eric Burden, "We got to get out of this place," and that really drove me on. So football is my sport. I love football to bits, but cricket was the business, and it was going to get me out and get me better, give me a better life. And so, that's what took over. But the background, I have never lost that Accrington background. And I might be an amiable sort of bloke. Don't cross me. Don't mess with me. Because that is from when I was 4. Don't mess with me.
But so, the opportunities that cricket gave you then really that's how you moved your life on, right?
Yeah, and to join Lancashire County Cricket Club was the dream. And all the talk now about county cricket as to it's pushed into winter and it's pushed into autumn. Every cricketer that I know has started in the UK in county cricket. That's where you start. It is vital, absolutely vital, to develop your game. That's where you develop your game. And it's a process where you join as a youngster into a team of experienced senior professionals, and they show you the ropes. They guide you through. And I can't see it any different now, because when we commentate, we talk about the leaders. The big word, buzzword, is leadership. The leadership group. Senior pros, that's what that is. Your senior pro guiding the young player through. And I'll just mention one who became a great player, Michael Clark. Comes into the Australia team as a little shaver. Shove him in at 6. In a great side. Pup, 6. And works his way through to become a fantastic player, learning the ropes from senior players, and that's how it's been all the way through. And so you marvel at the game that we're watching now, that India producing so many young players who step right into the team. You've got to learn your trade, and we talk about the Ranji Trophy. That's where they're learning the trade, definite.
But you talk about learning the trade, so you had to learn cricket, then umpiring, then coaching, now broadcasting. How much of that is natural, and how much have you had to work on all those things?
Well, my dad had a job, but he was also a lay preacher, and he was my mother was volatile, really, really volatile. I get a clip round the ear regular. My dad was very quiet and demure, and if he spoke, he's one of them, and you'd just listen, he didn't say much. Be yourself. Just be, and that stood by me. Just be yourself. I'm quite a private bloke. I come alive. Give me a microphone and a cricket match, I'd just move. I'd just get into a sort of overdrive. You don't see me out too much. I had my mates when I was at Sky. I would knock about with Ian Ward, Michael Atherton, Nasser Hussain, a couple of the producer young lads. And that would be us. We were pretty regular. No clubbing, whatever young people do these days. No, just pretty regular. My own group of friends right now are nothing to do with cricket. Tractor drivers, farmers, engineers, retired engineers. I've got a very interesting pal who's a crime scene investigator, and he's got me into allotments, and he's got his own allotment, and he's got me into it. And I said, how did you get into this, Howard? He said, because of what I've seen in the job, this gets me right away from it. And so I'm a pretty private bloke, but give me a cricket match and a microphone and I think I'm a bit different.
Final question. Playing cricket, umpiring, coaching, talking about it, all the things that you've done. I'm not going to ask you which one you think you're best at, but I'm more interested in which one you are most proud of, right? We all want to, all of us who get the opportunity to work in cricket, we want to leave the sport in a better place than when we started it. Which is the one that you think you've achieved that the most?
Commentating. That's the word that you use, achievement. What have you achieved most? And, I'm sort of humbled that I've won so many awards. I've got independent awards, which is nice. I've got a BAFTA. There's not many have got one of them. And the cricket writers presented me with the Peter Smith Award. Now that was special. Yeah, I mean, to please that lot, if you can please them cricket writers. I don't know why
you're looking at me when you say that.
Yeah, I mean, they are. I've been with them and around them for all my career. I think they are the salt of the earth. I mean, the enthusiasm that all the cricket writers bring in, except one, I think they're absolutely fantastic.
On AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.